Hello and welcome to another modelling video. This is Alan from the Makona Man at YouTube with another modelling video. Today we're going to be doing a fairly short on the bench for my 3D printing work and just talk about a few things that's happened over the past 6 months that I've experienced, discovered, changed, learned, improved in operating this device. And just some other things I picked up. For those who don't know or remember, this is the PP3D Up Mini 3D printer. It's a very small, inexpensive printer, around several $100s. There is a slightly newer version under the same name with the same or an updated logic board, but generally it retails nowadays for about $1,000. Though at $1,000 it is far more affordable than many other models out there, and it's generally available from 3D printing shops the world over. So during my build of the Gunpla Builders World Cup entry, the giant diorama, my 3D printer has broken down and I have not talked about it since, though I since have got it repaired. This is the heat exchange, the metal bit. I've got the nozzle and the feeder, and it was jamming quite a bit. I did a print by removing this from the extrusion block, unblocking it, putting it back in probably not the best manner, and it kind of hit the print bed, fell off because the extrusion block is attached by magnets, and somehow melted through the wire, creating an open circuit and getting an alarm or fault stating heat exchange is not hot enough to print and will only sit around 30 degrees. So I removed it, had a look at it, couldn't repair it immediately, though later on I'm going to clean up those wires and use a metal crimp and put it back into service. But as you can see, for about a little over $100, I purchased a new one. Looks a lot cleaner, looks a lot nicer, and it's operating as normal. When I was at the anime convention, I pretty much replaced it at the site and did for the first time public demonstrations of 3D printing. Which I forgot to bring the fan. I only had PLA, could only do a few prints, and clogged the thing up in quite a nasty manner. All in all, the printer is working, and it's working quite fine, and since then, from the time I've commissioned it, it's printed approximately 7 kilos worth of stuff, so it's printed its own weight in models, and things are getting better. Now, a little talk about the software. I went on the pp3dp.com website, and they have the latest version of the Up software, which includes the use of the Up box, the newest 3D printer, and a few bugs removed, so it's operating a little smoother than initially. And a lot of people who are Up users would know that there is a software mod called Fix Up 3D, which can be downloaded from github.com. I will put a link in the video. It is the Forsaken NGS group who programmed this thing called Fix Up 3D. It's a file called winusb.dll. And all you have to do is just copy this file, put it straight into the Up file directory in Program Files, and this window will immediately pop up. I find it to be very useful. It gives you all these extra parameters, a lot easier to control than, or very similar to all other 3D printed software. So if you're used to operating more simplistic software and you go straight to the Up, this would be a lot helpful. You could actually input the heat temperature for the first, second and third layer, as well as have finer control over the layer thicknesses. As you can see here, I've got 0.1 instead of 0.2, and it's printing ever so finer than it was doing previously. Still, the Up Mini does have its restrictions, but being able to just get that tiny bit more of detail is a bit of a godsend. The idea of having control over the heat, the Up series of printers is designed around its own in-house brand of ABS, and it's ABS-P. I forget what the P stands for, but generally it needs a little more heat to make it into a molten state and extrude, which is really good because that material is amazing for making extrusion blocks over usual ABS or PLA. The PP3DP company has finally released 1 kilo spools of this plastic in multiple colours. I don't have it with me right this second, but I have used it, and I will show demonstrations of what the printed example looks like. But I'm really happy that the 700 gram version costed like almost $70. The 1 kilo one is about $40-50, and it produces stuff in a very nice detail. I'm very happy with it. I'm going to be using it for my finest models and for things like components, helmets, models themselves. And then I'm going to use cheap PLA for things like diorama pieces, bases and whatnot. But with the heat control on Fix Up 3D, I'm able to print PLA a lot more successfully, and in theory I should be able to now finally print without any problems ABS. What I've got in, because I got asked by a few people on my printing with PLA on the Up Mini, I found a useful temperature is 200 for the first layer and around 190 for the rest of the layers, according to some online research for cheaper PLA. Generally between 180 and 210 is the best range. Unfortunately, this spits out PLA at a little hotter than that, so yeah, that's alright. I understand the limitations of the Up Mini is 260, so you can't really print any hotter than that. Also, with my process of printing PLA, my new process now is, because the double-sided tape I'm using is a bit crap, it gets heated up by the bed and things don't stick as well as the previous double-sided tape. If you're using double-sided tape and it's not working too well, try a few brands. But what I'm doing now for maximum adhesion is fan still in front of the 3D printer, both doors still open with the software heating mod. I lay new tape for every single print. I withdraw the plastic, cut off the very end of the spool. It's normally got this stringy, strange thing about it. It sort of stretches a bit and just distorts the shape of it, and it's harder for the motor to feed through into the heat exchange. So it's got a fresh bit of plastic. You only have to cut 2 centimeters, feed it straight back in, and as soon as I extruded a small amount of plastic out, I stop and I immediately print on fresh double-sided tape. And yeah, I've been getting tons of PLA printed out successfully, which I will show very shortly. This is what I'm talking about. The really skinny bit is caught up in the gears in the stepper motor, and the thick bit is just under it, so it can get kind of stuck in the skinny bit. All you have to do is just cut it about there and feed it straight back into the extrusion head, and you'll have excellent printing. Just a bit of a rundown on the Fix Up 3D. As I mentioned, you just chuck it straight in the program folder. When you start up the Up software, it immediately appears and it just stays there. The yellow numbers is what I've modified, the green is what existing. If you change the heat temperature, all you have to do is click on send temperature. If you edit anything else, you send G code. Then you just go to your print settings, and it's either layer thickness of 0.2, 0.25, 0.3, 0.35. That's what set 1, 2, 3, 4 is. When you change any of those, that is your new prints level. I print within the Up 3D printing software, not the print again button. I've had a go at that, and that sort of just bypassed the software, did some weird things, and it did its own thing without me being able to stop in the Up software, so I found that a bit buggy. Though I just find that I just only use the fix for changing the layer thickness and the temperature. Everything else in the software itself. And just quickly on the screen is a Crusader style tank turret for Mecha Musume kit, which I've printed here. The first layer was a tad rough, that can be sanded away and puttied, and it's generally the same thing using the new heat settings. The bottom is lacking some fill, but the top is excellent. Of course it needs some sanding. There you go, it's got 0.10 instead of 0.20. Here are some projects I'm working on. So this is the official white 3D PS material, which it's actually ABS-PC, not ABS-P. My mistake. 1.75mm by 3dprintingsystems.com. And this is the proper plastic for the Up printers, which in the 1 kilo lot is quite cheap. So this is what the spool looks like. And yeah, it's more expensive than your most cheapest budget stuff, but for a really fine print, which these components are made out of, it is fine and as beautiful as the first prints I made from the Up Mini using my first reel. And this is an example of the budget plastic stuff. Really rough as guts. And then we've got all of these other round bits which are a lot nicer. This is my second generation Mecha Musume striker legs, a tank version with a lance weapon. So these assemble those assemble as a lance. These are the striker legs and these are the tanks. When I finished developing them, I've created it through AutoCAD 2014. I'm going to sand it up, paint it up, attach it to a figure, fully customize it and display it as a finished model before it is available for download. It's going to be made for free, so anyone can just download it and use it as they see fit. And I just want to show what it will look like when it is done, have instructions, everything, before it's made out on the mass download market, which will be the Meconoman's first packaged model kit that people will be able to consume. This is generation 1. Striker legs, very simple, already together. We've got a turret, cannon and legs. This will be done very shortly. Generation 3 has been auto-CADed but not printed. Generation 4 has begun. I'll have 5 generations worth and then I'll stop making them for a little while. Now, as per talking about the double-sided tape, this is where I've been having the problems. It'll initially have a little trouble sticking, and then the future layers will be fine. Bit of putty and primer will fix that. So this is using the new heat settings. This is the old one. It's a bit of separation, a bit of holes, the fill's poor, and this one is just significantly smoother. So it's proved with the PLA that the new mod is definitely of a big improvement, and that was just the first settings I've thrown in. I would like to have a bit of a play within denominations of 5 degrees, but we'll see how we go from there. This piece is only amusing because of the story behind it. I had my black reel in, and I thought that I might just be able to print this out before the reel runs out, not to waste the plastic but not to have a failed print. Near the very end, the last 5 minutes of the print, I heard this big flick sound, which was the polycarbonate sleeve being released and flying out of the printer because the plastic just flicked off the spool. I was just about to feed through. It would have definitely have run out without finishing, and as I saw a few inches sticking out, I took the spool off, put a brand spanking new grey PLA spool in, and had it ready to feed right into the extruder head just as the black disappeared in. So I pushed it right into the feed hole and kept pushing it in until I could feel that the extruder block and stepper motor was dragging it in, and then you can see the point when it's changed colour from one reel being dragged into another. So if you're working in the same room as your 3D printer and you know you're about to run out of material and you hear that happening, it can actually be quite easy to feed the new reel in. I don't think this is very exciting, but it's what I've experienced. Now, much like a multi-deck or level car park, I'm making a small set of shelves for my 70-second tanks. I've run out of space to display them, and I bought this really cool plastic with this cool texture, normally for 35th scale planes, but no one will notice. And these are just large columns to support these multiple levels of shelves up. There will be 8 shelves, four stacked on top of each other, 2 abreast, and they'll be puttied and sanded up. And in the process, this is what it looks like when it comes straight out of the 3D printer. If I was to paint it, you'd see the lines. I coat it in automotive primer quite thickly via a paintbrush, and after a little sanding it looks something like this, and it is absolutely dead smooth. So if that is to be airbrushed, you won't see any of these lines. We've talked about it before, but never hurts to demonstrate again. And this is the type of primer I use. It's a very, very big can, especially compared to the size of a hobby primer. You're looking around $7-8 for that. That was $20 something. I've had it for many years, used it for many projects, and shared it with friends, giving away bottles of the stuff. And yeah, it's very thick. You could actually thin it down to be airbrushable, but in its thickest form, just apply it on. It does the trick. It doesn't have to be this brand. There are a ton of automotive shops around the world, a ton of brands, are all the same thing, just acrylic or lacquer primer. The reason why they sometimes use acrylic is because lacquer is a bit shunned out among environmentalists, you know, bad for the environment and all that jazz, but they're all lacquer, I can assure you, and does the trick perfectly for 3D printing. All in all, thank you very much for watching. As always, until next time, there was a lot to consume in this video. Sorry if it's not exactly exciting, but still, it is a hobby that I'm expanding and developing in the use of 3D printing and scale modeling. And shortly, I'm hoping sometime this year, I will do a video on breakaway supports and rafters, as well as printing raftless before the year's out. I forgot to mention that the interesting thing about all of these pieces, and the reason why I've been having problems with the bottoms, is because each of these actually has been printed raftless. I found with the double-sided tape and printing in PLA is possible to print raftless, as well as very basic shapes in ABS. Anything that's round or complex, I would definitely recommend rafts. All in all, catch you guys later. 2 things I completely forgot to mention and amend. First, with the new heat mod, I find that if you forget to turn your fan on, or if things are going to occur that would normally block your extruder from PLA printing, is a lot less likely to block. and normally instead of pulling it apart and clearing it out, you can just force feed the spool in a little harder, and it just pretty much recaptures a hard piece of plastic that hasn't been softened from the extruder building up heat. So the heat mod is excellent for that. Secondly, an amazing website I've come across, which is the riprap.org/wiki. It is like a Wikipedia for 3D printing with materials and settings and all sorts of interesting information. It normally gives you coordinates and information in printing with the riprap 3D printer. But I suppose after trying some things and advice and whatnot out of that wiki, you can learn to fudge and move around with the numbers that would be more appropriate for your 3D printer. I'll put a link down below, and that should be of somewhat help.